by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome into Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, and appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching in today. Happy hump day, fellas. It's a Wednesday, halfway through the week, and officially 8 days from Razorback football season. How we feeling?
Doing good. Getting closer. I'm excited.
We are Tevin Mitchell days away, John. I'm excited.
Dude, okay, so it's funny you brought that up because I posted it's Tyler Wilson days away because he was, number 8. And then somebody was like, I actually prefer Austin Allen days away. It's like, I prefer you to shut up is what I prefer. So never going to make everybody happy. But yeah, Tevin Mitchell, Michael Grant, if anybody remembers him, also a number 8. But yeah, 8 days away from Razorback football getting started up. And we're going to have a lot to talk about today. We're going to, dive into some football and also do some basketball stuff and have some fun with the video game too. But as people are reading there into the title of this live stream, and I'm sure everyone is being very, very, very understanding and not
already mad
at all. Yeah, I mean, people just get mad online. As soon as Inside Arkansas Live pops on, people are just like, I'm going to get mad online, no matter what it is. So we're going to make people mad today. That's fine. But yesterday, in case you missed one of our 3 streams that we did, the last one that we had was, of course, Pod of That Nature, where we were recapping and reacting to some of the Bobby Petrino comments made in his press conference yesterday. And really interesting stuff. And we talked about that. So if you want to view a little bit more in depth of it, just watch yesterday's Pod of That Nature here on Inside Arkansas. But the thing is I am all about Bobby Petrino. I love Bobby Petrino. I love that man so much. He gave me my most favorite days of college, and everyone's excited about him being back. But I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't look at the other side of the coin too. What are the concerns about Bobby Petrino being the offensive coordinator for Arkansas? Because let's be honest, you can't just sit there and say it's 100% guaranteed. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. It's going to be grand and wonderful. He's going to come out there and there's not going to be a single thing wrong with the offense or with Bobby Petrino being the OC. So I'm asking you guys, do you have concerns or any concerns actually about Bobby Petrino being the offensive coordinator this year?
I don't know that I would say my concerns would be about Bobby Petrino being the offensive coordinator. I mean, I will say it is interesting how it's just a unanimous, overwhelming, Bobby P's here, offense is going to be cooking. Like, it's just almost like a foregone conclusion. In terms of Bobby Petrino, the man and the mind and the offensive play caller, no, I don't have any concerns at all, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee to me that this offense is going to be really, really good. They do need some things to go right. I mean, if it was to go wrong with this offense, why would that be the case? I mean, I think it starts with me. If his handpicked quarterback is closer to the Boise State version of himself than the one that we think is going to be really good after being touched by the quarterback whisperer, right? Because this team, no doubt, needs, I mean, Taylor Green has to be not just a good version, but the best version of himself at a higher level than he's ever played. So there's obviously, yes, a lot of reasons why he was identified and Bobby went out there and got him, but he has to be better than he was at Boise State for this Arkansas team to be successful, for this Arkansas team to get to a bowl game or whatever goals they might have. So if it were to go wrong, for me, it starts right there.
Yeah, Curtis, I agree. It's not like I have any concern over Bobby's offensive mind or his ability to field a good offense. Like, we've seen all of this. It's been proven over the years. But if you just look at any head coach or any play caller's resume, you realize that context matters. It's not like every year that Bobby Petrino is running an offense, it's a high-level offense. I mean, last year at A&M, weirdly enough, kind of gives me some optimism. Like, their numbers when I was looking at them today were a little bit better than I kind of thought they were. I think they were top 25 nationally in scoring and yardage. Of course, Arkansas is not going to have as much talent as A&M had on the offensive side of the ball, but he did have 3 different quarterbacks. But I mean, if you go look at his time at Louisville, and I mean the second stint at Louisville when he was a head coach, it was very Lamar Jackson dependent. The 3 years that Lamar was his quarterback, elite offense, top 10, top 15 and everything. The year before Lamar, 74th in scoring. The year after Lamar, bottom 10 in the country in yardage. It kind of context matters. And so I agree, Curtis, that the Taylor Green aspect of this is one that, again, we're doing a lot of assuming. And again, we're optimistic because We've seen Taylor Green kind of grow this offseason. We like what we've been hearing. We feel like they have a nice little relationship, he and Bobby. But yeah, I agree. I think it's weird that anyone thinks it's a foregone conclusion one way or the other. That like they're like confident it's going to be a disaster, or that they're confident it's going to be firing on all cylinders and all that. I think that just with any team, you're only as good. It's kind of a whole, it's a big picture. It's not going to be based on Bobby Petrino is just going to make this offense good. Like if this offensive line sucks, doesn't really matter as much what Bobby's got cooking up there. And if Taylor Green sucks, part of it doesn't really matter that much. Yeah. So it's like, I look at Bobby Petrino's resume and it's not a foolproof resume. The years where the pieces all came together, very good. We think this Arkansas offense has a chance. It has some good pieces. We think they have a chance to be pretty good. But you can see, like, things can blow up quickly on any coach. And Bobby Petrino is no exception. I mean, if you don't believe me, Arkansas literally just had an OC last year who had a very successful stint at Arkansas a long time ago, had different context last year, and was much worse. I'm not comparing Bobby and Dan Enos. I think Bobby's a far more certified offensive guru than Dan Enos, but to act like the context of everyone else around him doesn't matter seems a little silly in my mind. But to wrap it all up, I don't really have many concerns with Bobby Petrino in particular. I just have my questions about other pieces and are they going to be ready to kind of adapt to this new offense that Arkansas is implementing?
Yeah, and to add to that, because I'm going to make it clear that I am not saying that Bobby Petrino is going to fail at Arkansas, because I don't believe that. But the reason
you're going to get accused of it, though.
Oh, I know. But that's the thing is, like, the reason I bring this up is kind of what Andrew talked about with the Dan Enos thing last year. When I think about that, and I think about other times, which has happened often, where I was excited or I was optimistic or whatever about a coaching hire or a player coming in or whatever, and then it doesn't work out. And the reason I like to do that is because there is a good chance it will happen that way, that it won't be as good as what we think. When Enos came in last year, I really liked Kendall Briles. I felt like he was unfairly just crucified as an offensive coordinator. I mean, he wasn't perfect, but for crying out loud, they averaged like 38 points a game. Okay. The reason in 2022 that they went 7-6 was not because of the offense. Yeah, that play with Trey Knox under center was stupid. Yes. But the overall, if you look at the grand scheme, he was a good offensive coordinator. And when Enos came in, I was like, okay, well, he's been around a lot. He's had a lot of coaching stints at other places. He's familiar with Arkansas. Pittman's familiar with him. KJ needs to work on some things to get him ready for the pros, some mechanics and whatnot. So this could really work out. And especially because you got Rocket Sanders back. You got AJ Green. You got all these things. And then it was awful. So that's why I'm approaching it to where it's like we have to, no matter what it is, look at both sides of it, because it's not always going to be. You're a Razorback fan, for crying out loud. People, you should know that it's never going to be as good as what you hope. You should know that it's never going to be just all sunshine and rainbows. So yes, there is always going to be at least one reason that it could go wrong. And for me, for Petrino, I think that he's been given the full keys to the offense. So I'm not concerned about that being a problem. I also think that he does have a lot to work with when it comes to a quarterback, when it comes to skill position players and everything. The only thing that I could chalk it up to for why it may not work with Bobby Petrino is because just like Dan Enos or just like any offensive coordinator known to man, if your offensive line is not good enough, if it's struggling, if it's got injuries, if it's not doing the things where it's opening up holes or whatever, it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is. It doesn't matter how good your offense is. You're going to suck offensively, and you're not going to be able to get out of the gate. You're not going to be able to develop anything. And people can say, oh, well, you just adjust. You do this, you do that. You can't. So to me, my biggest concern with Petrino is not having that offensive line play be to where it's at, to where, yeah, he could have great play calls, great development and everything. But if that offensive line is not light years better than what it was a year ago, none of this crap is going to matter. And that offensive line is going to and the offense in general is really going to struggle.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right. Like, that's what people will say is, oh, he's got to adjust. He's got to do this, got to do that. What I will say is Bobby Petrino is definitely more well-equipped to do those things, to mask some deficiencies than maybe what we saw from Dan Enos, which was no adjustment whatsoever. But you're 100% right. Like, you can only do so much in those circumstances. If you don't have the quarterback play, if you don't have the offensive line, you're just going to struggle. It doesn't matter who's calling the plays and calling the shots there. Still think they're going to be better than last year. And again, like we're just playing the devil's advocate, the other side of the coin here to talk about it. But I don't think it is a foregone conclusion that it's just going to be, rock and fire and slinging it all over the place right away.
I also think there's like a larger conversation to be had about just the big picture situation of Arkansas football right now and how Bobby Petrino kind of fits into it. It's not like he's walking into this place where there's awesome vibes. Like, you're looking at a team who the coach is the number 2 option in terms of first coach to be fired. How quickly can, the locker room be lost? How quickly can you have guys start turning the other direction, start kind of having these conversations? Like, that's another thing of, is Bobby Petrino equipped to deal with that? Obviously, we know as a play caller, he's pretty equipped to deal with a lot of issues, but it's like, is he going to have a ton of interest in trying to rebuild this culture from the ground up? I mean, we all kind of heard the story of the offseason of how he got the job and how it came on his radar. Is basically his agent being like, hey, what about Arkansas? And he was like, oh, I don't think they'll hire me. And I 100% believe Bobby Petrino in that. He feels like he had unfinished business at Arkansas. He feels like he owes the people of the state a lot of things. I have no doubt about all of that. But I mean, I think there's also a path to Arkansas losing 2 of its first 4 games or whatever, and Bobby being like, man, this situation sucks. This was not as fun as I thought it was going to be. I hate this. I miss this quarterback sucks. This it's like I could see just everyone in that entire room kind of being like, they're like, we're at a position where Arkansas football could be very close to a complete reset. And that kind of wears on the coaches on the staff, the players on the team, and Bobby Petrino is no exception to that. Now, again, wrapping it all full circle, I don't expect it to happen that way. I don't expect this team to be bad completely, and just not be competitive and everything to blow up. But I think that it's far from a foolproof situation of like, oh yeah, it's just going to be happy. Everyone's going to hit the ground running and everyone's going to be thrilled to be working with each other here. And also it's like, I'm sure he and Sam Pittman like each other, but it's like, there has to be some aspect of that where he's like, man, this is a little humbling here. I'm here taking orders from this guy who, was like a GA 5 years ago. What are we doing now?
Well, I think that there still goes back to for that point too. I think so, but with Pittman and the dynamic there, but I still think Petrino, because he's so happy just to not be a head coach of a major, just to be doing offense. And Pittman, to his credit, has literally said, you do the offense. You get the quarterback you want. You run it the way you want. Pittman, when Guyton left and when Jimmy Smith left, hired Petrino guys to come in. So, I mean, Pittman, got to give Pittman credit. He has set Petrino up for as much success as possible. Like, he has set him up to where this isn't going to be something where Pittman's getting in the way or holding him back. This is going to be Petrino's thing. And I guess for people who, of course, watch Petrino and are excited about the season and everything, like what's going to be the expectation for deciding at the end of the year when Arkansas completes 12 regular season games, that we look back on the season and be like, yeah, that Petrino hire, that actually worked out. Like, what does that expectation look like? Is it simply just wins and losses? Is it about the offense and yardage that they had, or average points per game? Like, are we going to look back and decide whether or not the Bobby Petrino hire at OC was a successful one or not?
Yeah, I don't think you can go back to wins and losses unless the offense is just a very clear reason why they're losing a bunch of games, which was kind of the case at times last year. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where you set those goalposts. They'll probably move, honestly, throughout the course of the season, but it's really not going to take much for them to be better and to be improved. I'll go ahead and guarantee it right now. They're going to be a hell of a lot more fun to watch offensively than they were last year, regardless. So that's a good question. I don't know that I have a good answer to that question, really, because there's so much that goes into a football game and the results that it's hard to define success at a micro level like that. I don't know.
I think it really just comes down to your offense giving you a chance to win. Because I think if you look back to last year, we mentioned how much we did not enjoy watching this team play. There were several games, several weeks throughout the year where Arkansas was in the game and they were competitive, but their offense simply didn't give them a chance to win. I'm even looking at the Alabama game where I'm like, man, if this offense, outside of one weird play with KJ to Varkey's gums and all that, like, they really just didn't give themselves a chance to win. And so ultimately, I think when you talk about bringing in Bobby Petrino, you're bringing some stability, some credibility to that unit. And I think that's one thing that this team is going to do is put themselves in a position to where they're going to be competitive each week. They're going to give themselves a chance to win. And John, I think you nailed it. I think that there's no ego coming from Pittman here, which of all the knocks on Sam Pittman, you can't knock him for that. Like, he is not an ego-driven guy who's going to be having these weird battles going on. Like with Barry Odom, he was very willing to let him kind of be the associate head coach, let him be that voice for the team. And with Petrino, I think it's the same thing. And so part of that, maybe that's just Pittman delegating the blame. Who knows? But I do think that if this offense fails, it's not going to be because Pittman was overseeing it this weird way and, oh, he didn't know if he could trust Bobby. Like, I don't think it's going to be for that reason. It's just going to be they weren't good enough. Which, by the way, it happens all the time where you're just not good enough. But I felt like last year that's not what happened to Arkansas football. And I think we all know that as being people that covered the team. And so I think really it just comes down to giving yourself a chance to win. Find out if you are good enough. And I think that's what Arkansas football needs to do this fall. Find out if you can actually compete at this level. Because I don't think they were even giving themselves a chance last year.
I understand the whole thing about giving the team a chance to win or whatever. And in normal circumstances, I'd agree with that for the offense. This is different, though. The expectations externally on Bobby Petrino are so much higher. So if they just give the team a chance to win, I wonder if that's going to be good enough if it falls short of what he was doing his last stint here, or what maybe some of these. And it's not on him. It's almost like an unrealistic or unfair expectation that's put out there on him, to where, yeah, like if you really look at it objectively or take the 40,000-foot view and you're like, oh yeah, they made quite a few improvements over the course of last season. And man, yeah, that offense really kept them in some games. But right here in the thick of it, where the Kool-Aid is super sweet, people have high expectations for what this is going to be. And if it ain't that, I wonder if it starts to sour.
Not a super long leash, you know. It's not like it's going to get, you get to work it out for a couple of years.
Yeah. Well, and the same thing, like go back to last year. Like this, and I'm just trying to dive into the mind of Sam Pittman. I don't know what Sam Pittman was thinking or anything, but coming from the way of, not having an ego in the situation, if you think about it, you can play the what if game all day long. But if Kendall Briles stayed on as the OC last year, like originally it looked like he was going to do, and he still had KJ, he still had Rocket and everything like that, would the offense have been elite? Probably not, because that offensive line was still going to be a problem no matter what. But would it have scored more than 3 points against Mississippi State? Would it have been slightly more successful against Alabama? Because say what you want, Arkansas did score points against Alabama under the Kendall Briles offense. Like I know Traylon Burks helped a lot, but still, like they scored points. That Ole Miss game on the road, where Arkansas's defense really did a good job against Ole Miss's offense. Could they have won that game? Could they have won the BYU game? Like I hate to say it, but it's like you were this close. Like if you just had a decent offense, you win. I'm not saying you win every one of those games that were on possession, but you win more than half. And if you were able to do that, you would have been able to have a completely different outlook at the end of the season. And Sam Pittman's probably looking back on it. It's like, man, my decision to hire Dan Enos is what killed this season and almost made me lose my job. So he's probably like, I'm trying to win games here. And I don't care who it is, because I think that he looks at the job that Travis Williams did and hiring him after Barry Odom. He's like, I can hire good coaches. He hired Barry Odom in the beginning. He hired Kendall Briles in the beginning. He's had some hires that didn't go well, like some of the defensive line coach hires. But he's had some hires that went really well. So he knows he's capable of it. But seeing just how big of a mistake that was with Enos last year and how it almost cost him everything, all of his credibility, his respect, everything, he's looking at this situation where he's like, I'm not trying to be an egomaniac in this thing. I just want to win games again. And Petrino, whether he's going to submit it or not, but Petrino is going to be the key to bouncing back and getting this program back on a winning trajectory.
Yeah, and hindsight's always 20/20 with these things, but I think there could have been a better job done of forecasting what it would look like. But yeah, I absolutely think it would have been better last season under Kendall Briles, because you'd have had something a lot closer to the Kendall Briles version of KJ Jefferson than you did the Dan Enos version of KJ Jefferson, which it was a marriage destined for divorce. Like that just was not going to work. It was taking him out of his comfort zone, out of the skill set that was developed around him, which made him a hell of a quarterback in the SEC under Kendall Briles. It was almost like a completely different player out there. And the biggest factor that goes into that, yeah, we can talk about the offensive line being bad or whatever. It's not like KJ Jefferson wasn't under duress a lot, under Kendall Briles either. It was just a system that was designed for him to just kind of exemplify all of his skills. The Dan Enos version of it was not. And so, yeah, it would have been a lot better of a situation, no doubt, in my mind, if Kendall Briles was around last year.
Yeah, and I mean, I see this comment here from Jeff. It says, "Didn't they lose to Liberty under a Briles offense?" Yeah, we're by no means are we saying that the Kendall Briles offense didn't have its deficiencies, didn't have its red zone struggles and all that. But you look at the big picture and you look at what the offense was able to do, what KJ specifically was able to do. I don't think there's any doubt that OC change is certainly what led to the disaster of a season that happened last year. And look, even in the moment, I mean, I remember Curtis and I talking about it a lot because Briles was doing the whole thing of, oh, I might go to Mississippi State. Oh, I might go here. I might go there. I might go to Miami and all that. And I think ultimately they just kind of came to a conclusion that this wasn't, they were all right. They were kind of okay to let him leave. And I don't necessarily even blame them for that. But yeah, I think not having a legitimate plan in place and basically just hiring the first guy you scrolled by in your contact list probably wasn't the way to go about it. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of that. I think there has been, to your point, John, like a little bit of a humbling for Sam Pittman. Not that Sam Pittman needed to be humbled. Right. I just mean, like, I think that he had to look in the mirror and kind of really figure out what we're going to try and do here. And also, as I made the case earlier that this thing could flip quickly. And if they lose a couple games, everyone starts hating each other. I wonder if the desperation and kind of this is our last chance, if that maybe bands this group together where they're just like, look, we might be getting fired in 5 games. We might be getting fired in 10 games. Let's just let it hang out and go out there and play. And I wonder if that's the right mentality that this offense maybe kind of needs, especially coming off the year they had last year where there was such tension all over the place. They might just say, hey, F it. We're going out here swinging, which didn't sound like it when Pittman was talking about the 4th down stuff, like he's going to not go for it. But I do think that maybe the mentality shift is kind of what this offense needs. But I think anyone trying to pretend like the OC change last year didn't drastically set this program back is kidding themselves.
Yeah, it was awful. And everyone saw that because, just think about the difference it makes. I'll use these 2 games as an example. If Arkansas wins BYU and Mississippi State, that's 6 wins. You go to a bowl game. I'm not saying that people are going to be, hanging banners and getting all excited and stuff, but just think about how different the feeling is after last year if you went 6-6 coming in now. But because you went 4-8, because you had that win on the road in Gainesville for the first time in program history you've won in Gainesville, but it was just, it didn't matter. It was like a deck chair being blown off the Titanic. It made it lighter, but it didn't make a difference. Like nobody cared. So now you have going into this year, you got to recapture some of that. And I think that it's also been really weird too, guys, where 2022, you went, I guess Arkansas's final record was 7-6, but you had a really good offense. I mean, Rocket Sanders rushed for 1,400 yards. KJ was, dominating and was in a lot of people's minds one of the best quarterbacks at the end of the season in the SEC. But the defense was so atrocious that it kept you from doing things. And then last year, the defense was actually pretty good, but the offense was atrocious. So it's a weird thing where in 2 years you had completely opposite ends of the spectrum be the cause for keeping your team and your program from actually having success. And that's like a weird thing. It's just kind of mind-blowing where you're like, no, most teams at least are consistent year over year where it's like, hey, the defense may suck, but the offense is going to be pretty good or vice versa. This team is just in 2 years literally had one of the worst offenses that Arkansas has ever seen and one of the worst defenses they've ever seen in back-to-back years. That's craziness.
Coach speak alert here. Arkansas needs to play complimentary football. Just meet in the middle, baby. We got to play all 3 phases of the game, Big ball knower right here. But no, it is true. Like the extremes and the flip on that, it has been kind of crazy. And in truth, that's kind of where I'm at. If this offense takes a step forward, I don't expect them to go from where they were last year to being, prime time, greatest show on turf type of situation. The defense was really good last year. You could argue maybe, especially early in the year, that they overachieved based on what they had. Maybe that takes a slight downtick this year, but maybe they meet somewhere in the middle where both units could just be pretty good. And then I wonder what the results are there instead of, the defense can't get stops and they're gas and the offense is going 3 and out. And it's like, man, it's just not going to work out. Complimentary football, boys. That's what it's all about in this world.
Well, you even can just go back to individual games. I mean, we referenced the Liberty game there, but that was a weird game where Arkansas couldn't do anything in the red zone, and it was like the one good defensive performance for that team that year. I think it was 21-19 was the final score. I can't remember what. There was another close, low-scoring game that they lost in that season.
It was LSU 13-10 at home.
Right, with Malik Hornsby starting the quarterback.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, you had like 3 weird games where the one time your defense would bail you out, you weren't able to capitalize on it. And so ultimately, when I think of it from a big picture standpoint, what we learned last year was, hey, this defense that was worst in the country and past defense the year before really wasn't that bad. They just performed that poorly. And I think with this offense, we can certainly identify that they weren't actually as bad as they performed last year. It's just one of those things where when it flips on you one way and everybody starts kind of pointing fingers at each other and asking questions, it's really hard to get that back on track. And Arkansas couldn't do that defensively in 2022. They couldn't do it offensively in 2023. I think there's no doubt that both groups should be better than those worst versions of themselves of the previous 2 years. But are you going to get that complimentary football, like you're saying, Curtis? Like, is it all going to line up for you in each individual game? Because I think when I think of that 2022 offense, I think they finished top 25 nationally in yards, maybe even top 30 nationally in scoring. But it just felt like in the moments when they kind of needed to come through, they weren't able to come through. And so it's pretty stupid that we could do all this talking about the individual pieces, and it really comes down to fourth quarter, you need to score. Do you get it? Fourth quarter, you need to stop. Do you get it? Arkansas, the answer has been no a lot for Arkansas over the years. Are they going to be able to rise to that occasion in those one-score games? It's been something. I mean, it literally comes down to the margin for error is so thin. And if you don't believe me, just wait till you get to our simulation segment. We're going to talk about some of the close games Arkansas lost.
Well, I was going to say EA Sports College Football 25 does not believe that this Arkansas defense is going to be a better version than that bad one of a couple of years ago. So
no, not at all. And I know we'll talk about that'll be pretty fun. But also, Razorback fans, you just always play that what if game. It's like, if you just had the 2022 offense with the 2023 defense,
9-3, bro.
Yeah, he's like, you'd be winning 9 games. You'd be going to the Music City Bowl. It's like, yeah, well, you can't just look at it that way. But that's the other thing too. Like what you brought up, Andrew, is that I look at the years, and we're talking about offense here, but I look at the years where there was just one thing that Arkansas was consistently bad at that cost them a lot. Because even in that year with Kendall Briles in 2022, where they were scoring a lot, I'm sure you guys remember, they always started the games awful offensively. Awful. Remember the Alabama game in Fayetteville? Arkansas lost that game by 5. I think it was 28-23 was the final. Or no, it wasn't the final. It was 28-23 going into the fourth quarter. Arkansas it was 28-0. And then Arkansas had to storm back. Like that, everyone looked at that, was like, man, if they just would have started better, it would have been better. And then like last year, or you could maybe take some other years too, it's like the red zone offense is trash. It's like other times it looks okay, but it's trash when you can't score when it's first and goal from the 6. And so that's what's the weird thing about it, is it's like, it's easy to say, but if you just don't do that type of stuff consistently, the offense will be fine. Like, as long as you're just not this team where they get within the red zone or even within the 10-yard line, you're like, oh, crap. Like, well, here, line up the field goal. It's about to happen. It's just being able to not be this so predictable offense when you know what's about to happen. That's my thing that I just got sick of. Is just like, all right, well, Arkansas is going to have to come from behind, being down 3 scores here in the second quarter. So hopefully they can find a way to do it. It's frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, if my aunt had wheels, she'd be a bicycle, right?
I think it was my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle, but that's a good one too.
Funny story about the Kendall Briles first possession struggle. So I used to, at my previous stop, I used to write these stories. It was like a poll story. And one of the polls would always be Arkansas's first possession of the game. And every week it was like they did not score. Like I think there was one year where they scored like 10 points combined on the first drives of each game, and one of those was a touch against UAPB. And it's like, good Lord, dude! Like they really could not. They could not get out of first gear early in the games. And that's what's crazy about it. You have a group that finished top 25 in offense, yet you never scored on your first possession, and you had these 2 games where your offense was the reason you lost. It's just very bizarre, man. And so it's like, ultimately, at the end of the day, you see all these teams like Missouri last year. I reference them all the time, but it's like a team that just kind of overachieves it. Like, it's not like their offense, which their offense was very good, or their defense was crazy more talented than all these other teams that they beat, but they just they were the best version of themselves, and they were kind of all moving the same direction, and that gives you a chance to win. You beat teams you're not supposed to beat, and you avoid those stupid losses. It's going to take a lot to convince me that Arkansas is going to have that type of identity for a program, for a coaching staff that really doesn't have a ton of continuity and doesn't have a ton of experience together doing that.
Yeah, and I'll also throw in too, I know that, we talked about our concerns, which I think we voiced them about the Petrino offense, but the one thing that many things I remember very fondly of Bobby Petrino is his offenses. That dude could put together an opening drive like nobody's business, man. Like I'm hoping to see that again, where it's just like, hey, we don't know. They're going to make adjustments. Defense going to make adjustments, but I know on this drive in the opening, this is what they're going to do, and we're going to find a way to score. Like that's also what I hope to see Arkansas do. But
plays. 80 plays.
Over under 4.5 plays for a touchdown on Arkansas's first drive of the season.
Under.
Like that.
Under.
I'm going to go over, but only because it's going to be like 8 yards, 12 yards, 10 yards, 9 yards, 11 yards. Yeah, it's going to be just.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it like either way. And I know we'll talk about that probably on game week as far as like our bets of like, what's the first opening play and crap like that. But I'll say, like, I don't know. I'm hoping and I'm thinking Petrino's just going to be like, all right, they got a touchback. It's at the 25-yard line. We're going to line up in the I formation, but we're going to do a play action, hide the ball behind Taylor Green's back type of stuff, and then just find, there's Armstrong or Satania or somebody like that just deep downfield and never look back. That's what I'm hoping for. Or I just take like Jaquindon Jackson running a basic draw play or something and just using his athleticism to go to the house. One of the two. So
yeah.
I'm here to report. The chat is still mad over the title.
Johnny Simpson, welcome after us talking about this for 30 minutes. You're late to the party. Appreciate it.
Also, let me ask you this, chat. What storyline with this team do you feel like we have not covered? Because I see that all the time where people are like, why don't y'all talk about the linebackers? It's like, we've talked about everything, dude. We've
90 minutes a day, man.
Yeah. Let's say that's 6, because I think we did the math on that. What was that, 6 hours roughly a day or a week that we do of live streams? If you think that we missed anything, I beg of you, just go and listen to all 6 hours, because I promise you, it's been talked about. I promise you when it comes to this football team. So, yeah.
Regardless, if they're really good, then we were haters.
Yep.
And if they're really bad, then we were pumping the Kool-Aid into people's veins. So it's whatever.
Yeah, but I'll do what
I remember Johnny. We had the thing that was like, are the Razorback receivers the best in the SEC? That was the title, and people were like, mad about that too. It's like you get mad no matter what, dude. It's
I know. Doesn't matter. Well, he says that I guarantee Neighbors came up with that stupid headline. Dadgum right, I did. Right. Yeah.
Neighbors is the headline guy.
I'm the big headline guy. So I tell you what, Johnny Simpson, if that's your real name, let me know what headline you'd like us to use tomorrow, and I will use that headline. And we will see if anyone gives a rip about what you say and what your headline is going to be. Anyways. We got other things to talk about, I know, and we'll get to some of your chats here in a second. But folks, want to remind everybody that we are brought to you, of course, by our friends over at Alumni Hall, best Razorback apparel shop in the land. You got to check them out. You can go online at alumnihall.com, or you can check them out in Fayetteville, conveniently located on College at 3417 North College Avenue. They have it all, especially getting you ready for football season. It's back to school right now, and they got plenty of inventory on all the different shirts, all the different jerseys, all the different hats, all the different apparel, and it's for men, women, kids, everything. They got the nicest of things like Peter Millar, Johnnie-O, Nike, Columbia, everything. So if you're needing new Razorback gear, don't go anywhere else. Don't go to any other resale shop. Don't go online to try to check it out unless it's at alumnihall.com or it's in store at Alumni Hall. They're going to have the best. Check them out today. It's the ultimate Razorback shopping destination. Okay, a few chats, though, before we move on from that, because I know people wanted to get in on the Bobby Petrino talk. But this calls from Hog Ball Burner. He says, I'm in the minority, but I'm very concerned. I think we have O-line issues. You can have an amazing quarterback, but no O-line, you're screwed.
How dare you?
I know, Hog Ball Burner.
How dare you?
Well, yeah, this is Kool-Aid drinking, sunshine pumping content only. All right. If you don't say that this team's going to the Sugar Bowl, then you're just a terrible human being.
But to his point, though, I will say I do have concerns at the moment about the offensive line. I feel immediately better about that group if Patrick Kudus is back and is healthy and is back in that starting group with the offensive line. At that point, and again, like I'm not saying they're going to be the best offensive line in the history of football, but if you have that core five that we saw at the end of the spring and they're back in a rhythm and they're back in sync, and it might be 2-3 weeks into the season before we see that, but if they get that version of the offensive line, then I feel better about it. But right now, concerned about having a projected starter who hasn't been at camp the entire time. Yeah, that's valid.
Yeah. And then also to throw out Pooh Bear the Plug says, I'm very concerned only if Taylor Green was the reason KJ is gone. Okay.
KJ was gone anyway. But
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Someone commented about this and was curious of like what really happened there. I was like, I thought it was kind of a no-brainer for both sides a little bit. Like KJ, one, he graduated. So it's like he had kind of fulfilled his obligations. He was at Arkansas for 5 years. He was now playing for his third different OC. Is that correct? Or no, this would be his fourth different OC since he got on campus at Arkansas. It's like, I feel like both sides probably needed a fresh start. I think if he had come to Pittman and been like, I'm dying to come back to Arkansas, like I really want to come back, I really want to make this right, I have no doubt that Pittman would have been like, yeah, sure. I'm probably not going to, you know what I mean? Like they would have had no problem with it. But I think he probably felt in his heart, like, all right, I probably need a change of scenery. I thought it made sense for both guys. Like, I don't know why anybody thought that was like a controversy. Usually when coaching changes happen, players leave. That just is what happens.
Yeah. And also, like, let's be honest, like Petrino and KJ, it's not an insult towards either one of them, but it's like that was not going to be a fit. Like, that just wasn't going to happen. Like Bobby just told, hey, go get your quarterback. He's probably like, I love KJ. He's probably a great guy, but he's just not what I'm looking for. So I'm going to go get Taylor Green. And KJ is at UCF with old Gus Malzahn and SJ Tui hanging out, and probably is going to be great this year. So,
well, and regardless of the fit, again, it's about picking your guy. Yeah. I think Bobby wanted to bring in his own guy, regardless of the fit of all that. I think he just wanted to, he has his vision and just works out.
I think everything is going to work out for both sides. Drake says biggest concern is Bobby being able to work with what he has. If the O-line doesn't work out, how is he going to work around it? It was obvious Enos did not know how to work around it. But again, like I get there's only so much you can do, as we talked about, adjusting. Like there's only so much you can do with a bad offensive line. If your offensive line's bad, you're not going to do anything. Like especially run the ball. Drake also said Briles, talking about Kendall Briles, was the epitome of if it works, then you're a genius. If it doesn't, then you're the biggest idiot. Those third down calls just didn't work most of the time. Listen, like I said, we didn't say, and at least I wasn't saying that Kendall Briles was just this mastermind genius offense coordinator. He made mistakes. Like we talked and joked about it. None of those wide receiver passes he had worked ever. So he just kept running them though. So it wasn't perfect, but
what got on my nerves more than anything else was the inevitable, Arkansas got picked up a first down to move the chains. Let's hurry up to the lines. That way we can get a rushing play for 1 yard every single time. It drove me nuts, man. Drove me nuts.
I don't know why people can't view these things through a nuanced lens. Like if we were like, hey, losing Kendall Briles sucked. It's like, wait a minute. So y'all don't remember that he made mistakes? It's like, no, we remember that he made mistakes. We used to complain about him all the time, but we're just looking at the big picture here a little bit. Yeah. There were definitely, and that's what was so funny is because going into last year's season, nobody was like, Arkansas is going to miss Kendall Briles. Nobody really was saying that, including us.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, let's be honest too, you can't really do it because Twitter and all that wasn't around. But if you go back to the old school message boards like woopig.net or Hogville or whatever back during the Petrino days, I guarantee you during those game threads, you'd probably find people that were like, Petrino, what in the world? Going for it on fourth down? You're an idiot. It's just like, this is the thing. We need David Lee back. It's just stupid crap like that.
Hey, but Petrino made Casey Dick a 3,000-yard passer.
That's true.
Even in his first year, I remember being like, wow.
Yeah. Like, in fact, I think Casey Dick, up until that point, before Ryan Mount, Tyler Wilson, and everybody else, he was the second all-time leading passer in a season in Razorback history.
And got benched for his brother in the same year.
Yep.
It's hard to do.
That is. That's a great stat there.
I feel terrible for. Why can I not remember his name?
Who?
Casey Dick and
Nathan Dick.
Thank you, Nathan. Yep. Okay. Gosh, man.
Yep.
What a
one was 10, one was 11. So, yeah. And guess what happened after that year? I know Casey Dick graduated, but guess what happened? Nathan Dick transferred out. You know why? Because Bobby's like, thank you. I got a guy named Ryan Mount coming in. And it worked out.
Right?
Yeah. He went to UCA and was great. it worked out. Sometimes
because Mallett had to sit out 08, right? Because this is back in the old Stone Age when you had to sit out if you were a transfer for a year.
Yeah, and I just remember the news and how we got our news, like again, message boards, because somebody would jump on there, and be like, man, I'm hearing reports that I got a buddy of mine whose brother's at the U of A, and he said that he was in the dormitory and saw Ryan moving in, and he's there hanging out, and that's how the reporting came out that Ryan was transferring to Arkansas from Michigan. So, thank goodness for Rich Rodriguez being at Michigan.
I say that every day.
Yep. Before I say my prayers at night, that's one of the things I pray about. It's like, thank you for Rich Rodriguez going to Michigan. Floyd says, how accurate is Talon? We know he has wheels, according to Pittman on Monday at the Touchdown Club. He's the second fastest. Is that what he said? I mean, I didn't listen to the whole Touchdown Club, but if he said he was the second fastest player on the team, I mean,
if that's true, that's definitely a good omen. And yeah, his legs are going to be a weapon for Arkansas too. In terms of his accuracy, how accurate is he? Well, not very over the course of his career at Boise State. That's just true. Those are just the numbers. But it sounds like they identified some things in his throwing motion that they wanted to work on. They got him going over the top more. And apparently if he sticks to that and doesn't fall back into bad habits, they really like the results that they've seen from that. So with that being said, he's a sub 60% completions on his, for his 2-year career. I think he's going to be substantially higher than that, but I wouldn't go into it thinking he's just going to be eagle eye out there. I mean, he's going to miss some throws. He's going to throw some picks. That's kind of part of the player he is, but I definitely think he's going to be improved in that department from what we saw at Boise State.
Yeah, it's more or less the one concern he has is his accuracy. Which it is, I mean, it's a big deal, but I also think he is going to be improved, like you said.
Well, and again, going back to, I hate making comparisons, but sure, it's like, Ryan Mallett in his first year in 09, speaking of, he had like 3,500 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, and only 7 picks. Okay. His completion percentage was 55%. It was not good. So to me, completion percentage, yes, you want it to be extremely high as possible, but I'd rather have a completion percentage that's low while also keeping the interceptions low than having, like a KJ Jefferson completion percentage. Oh, he completed 78% of his passes. Okay. But, if he's throwing 12 picks, it doesn't matter. So, yeah. A few more here before we move on. Also, Kenny says, a question for him says, if Haz is a Mackey finalist, how many wins does that equate to? I don't think just that alone equates to any wins, but
Haz will be a Mackey finalist though, because he's that dude.
Yeah, I mean it'll definitely open up the offense even more. And whenever Arkansas's had a really talented tight end, was usually the years that they were pretty good on offense. So I mean,
by the way, did you guys notice the subtle shift in the tight end discussion behind Haz from Petrino yesterday? Yes. It went to now Gums has been, pretty good or whatever. But I tell you, I really like Ty Washington. And that's a little bit of a shift from what we've heard from everyone really the last couple of weeks. So yeah, sounds like Gums has really come on strong, but the more they've seen in Ty Washington, the more they're like, oh yeah. So I think when we did our little depth chart projection, I guess last week, me and Andrew, we were kind of wondering about that. Like, has Gums done enough to really get in that conversation with Ty Washington? Maybe not. Maybe not. So,
hey, it goes back to when Petrino lights up, and he lit up when he mentioned Ty Washington yesterday.
Yeah.
And, I really like Ty Washington. He's a good player. I didn't have much of him in the spring, but I really liked what I saw from him in the fall. He's a good player. So it's like that's him. That's Petrino lighting up, by the way. That's him getting really excited.
Which, by the way, to answer the question though on the Mackey finalist, I'm pretty sure Luke Kuechly won the butt kiss on a 2-10 Boston College team. So it is very much in play that he wins the Mackey and has 900 yards and 8 touchdowns, and Arkansas goes for it. It's a very real possibility.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to do this shout out to Gary Thomas, who's Hawk Tunes. I don't know if you guys know who Hawk Tunes. He's a good dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's Hawk Tunes. So, it's at Alumni Hall. They're Apparel. So yeah, Hawk Tunes is good people.
That's
good
awesome.
I've been raving about Hawk Tunes off camera for a while now.
I live for those game day graphics. Absolutely love them, man.
Yeah, it just makes me mad because I'm like, I wish I could draw. I can barely write. And then I see something like that. I'm like, dude, this dude's over here doing great designs. And I'm like, I can barely do a stick figure. So then Kenny's got a question. Does Scott Fountain get fired this year?
No, unless Sam Pittman does too.
I'd say everybody could get fired.
Right. I would say he could be moving to a different job. I don't know. But Scott Fountain's coming off of his best year as the special teams coordinator. And I might be the biggest Scott Fountain hater on the beat. Like, frankly, I mean, maybe I haven't voiced it publicly, but like, Curtis, how many times have you heard me talk bad about Scott Fountain? Like, all the time. First team all lied on his resume and all that. But no, he's not coaching for his job. Like, this Arkansas special teams unit was like top 10 in the country last year.
Yeah, they were really good.
Yeah, and it's just, it's all about some people just have their minds made up and they're not going to change it. It's like Scott Fountain, Hudson Clark, like all these players just nope, sucks. Doesn't matter.
And
what
I
happens.
did hate Scott Fountain. I used to be a hater, and like he kind of won me over. I don't know.
As long as they skip the every other game punt getting blocked, and then just the weird, like who gets offsides on a damn kickoff,
Dude.
like stuff like that, cut that out. But in terms of like the big picture stuff that you can measure, like, oh, field goal kickers are pretty good. Oh, they're punting it okay. They're not getting housed on kick returns. Fine. They've been just
they run back punts here and there.
Yeah, the occasional trick play for a touchdown,
Yeah,
So,
because you're gonna have this year, you're gonna have a new punter, a new kicker, and like I guess a new kickoff return. I don't think he's in, but you're gonna have a lot of new personnel. Like Cam Little, you don't have anymore, and Max, which by the way, real randomly, who was the kicker for Pittman's first season? I just always forget that. Wasn't Cam?
2020.
Oh,
I'm trying to think.
Somebody in the chat needs to get us that real quick because
I was just thinking about that.
Transferred from somewhere. It was a transfer from somewhere. Gosh, that's going to drive me nuts. Like number
but
30.
Was it a Chad Morris holdover, or was it a guy who just came in for 1 year?
I'm going to have it in
was
like 2 seconds here.
Okay.
In 2020,
he was only there 1 year.
Where are we at? Scrolling through the stats.
It wasn't Jake Bates because he was the backup to Cam Little. There was some guy that he transferred from like
AJ Reed.
AJ Reed.
Yeah.
AJ Reed. Did he transfer from Duke?
Maybe that's right. Yeah.
I think he was a Duke transfer.
Okay.
Had AJ Reed and Matthew Phillips were the 2 kickers. Yeah. And Reed was 7 of 11 on field goals.
Man, it just do not remember that at all. But it's like, yeah, they're going to have some new guys out there too. All right. So we can go ahead and move on to our next segment because I know it was a great article written and a little fun that was had on InsideArkansas.com.
Some of our best work.
Yeah, dude, it's Pulitzer Prize winning. The college football game by EA Sports video game is, of course, been out and about, and I've played it. I know Andrew's played it too, and there's been some fun things where I feel like they got a lot of ratings right, a lot of ratings not right, but there was a simulation of the season for the Razorbacks. How did that turn out, guys? How did that go?
That was absolutely nuts. Andrew, I'm so happy that you did this. And I know we'll get into it, but before we do, it's crazy to me how the football gods can infiltrate a video game that's been gone for a decade. Because these scores and then some of these losses, you can it's just brutal, man. It hurt my soul even looking at these results. It's a cruel world to the Razorbacks. It really is, man.
I'm not going to go through every single game, but I'm just going to give you guys a quick little synopsis of the season. You fans at home, 5-7 is the final record.
Yeah.
They have Arkansas losing 49-47 at Oklahoma State week 2. So, you're kind of like, okay, whatever. You beat LSU. You win at Mississippi State. You beat Louisiana Tech 45-42. Interesting little result there.
Get that scare at home.
You go into the Missouri game 5-6 and lose 50-48. That's what this simulation has.
It's just so brutal. Yeah, a 50-48 2-point loss at Missouri, a 23-21 loss to Texas at home, a 2-point loss to Texas at home.
Which, by the way, real quick, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, that was the final score, the exact final score of Arkansas, Texas in 2004 when Matt Jones fumbled the ball. I'm pretty sure that's the exact same.
That would be funny.
27-21 loss to an Ole Miss team that's playing for a shot at the college football playoff. It's just
back-to-back back-breaking losses. I mean, having a chance to beat Ole Miss.
Arkansas had all those 1-score losses last year, and then you simulated on this damn game, and you have 1-possession losses to Oklahoma State, Ole Miss, Texas, and Missouri. So pick your rivals and the teams that you really don't want to lose to, and it happens in heartbreaking fashion. Cool. thanks for that.
The one score game they won was Louisiana Tech, where they give up 42 points. If a 4-6 Arkansas team beat Louisiana Tech 45-42, that reminds me of the Coastal Carolina game in 2017. You remember whenever they like had to go for 2 to beat them, and it was like 52-51 or something crazy like that. So just going over some team stats here from this simulation, they had Arkansas finishing 35th in total offense, 31st in scoring. If you told me those things are real, I'm having Arkansas at 6-6, 7-5, realistically.
No doubt.
But this simulation has them 124 in total defense and 109 in scoring defense.
Falling off a cliff, man.
Like, it's literally 2022 defense all over again. Like, literally. It's what they'd be predicting. That's awful.
Yeah, this isn't terribly dissimilar from the 2022 season that we were talking about earlier. Like, this feels a little similar, just the 5-7. That would be this would be about as gut-wrenching of an Arkansas season as you can have without it being like the Sternover or just a 2-10. Like, this is maybe the worst case scenario, I think. Like, truly.
Yeah, because you go into the bye week at 2-4. Like, Pittman ain't lasting past the bye week if they go in 2-4. This ain't happening.
Yeah, that's true, I'm afraid. And let me ask you guys this. If the season played out exactly like this in real life, aside from what we just said, like us 2-4, Pittman's probably gonna be gone. But if they go 5-7 and they play those teams that we mentioned to 1-score games, miss a bowl, whatever, how do you feel? Like, how do you walk away from that feeling?
Terrible. Like,
terrible because it was a disappointment, or terrible because of what could have been? Like, are you pounding the table for a regime change? Or
yes,
okay.
Because that's the thing.
I'd be very interested to see what Rhett Lashley could do. I'd be very interested.
Like, yeah, because it's like you get at the end of the day, man, wins. It's all that matters. Like, it doesn't matter how close you are. Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Like, you gotta win. And so I would feel terrible and disgusted and everything.
Let me ask you this. What if we told everybody out there that Taylon Green was going to throw for 3,362 yards, 36 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, complete 78% of his passes, and rush for 497 yards and 5 touchdowns?
78 is insane.
78% on this simulation. Wow.
And Petrino would have been lying when he says that he doesn't care about completion percentage. Because
they would have just not ran the ball. I mean, if this were the case by like week 5, you're just like, all right, we're not running the ball. Like, we're good here, especially because the video simulation has Arkansas's run game very limited. Taylor ran for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, which feels pretty fair. Only 605 yards for Jaquin and Jackson. Rashad Dubinion, less than 200 yards and 2.9 yards a carry.
Disrespectful, man.
Yeah, they're not huge on Arkansas's run game. Shout out to Isaac TeSlaa, Curtis. They have him going for 67 receptions, 1,017 yards, and 15 touchdowns.
If Isaac TeSlaa goes for 67 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and 15 touchdowns, I will get his face tattooed on my body as a tramp stamp.
Right, I'll get it right here on my chest. Like, this Superman logo will be replaced with Isaac TeSlaa.
Man,
unbelievable, man.
Yeah, he wouldn't be bad for like the 5th wide receiver on the team to do that. So
the video game has him as wide receiver 2, and I even thought about it. I almost texted you guys like, should I kind of update the depth chart to kind of reflect like real life? But I was like, no. Hayden Henley starting at linebacker. It is.
Yeah, it's very interesting, man. Yeah, it's tough stuff on the defense. Xavier Sori led the way with 83 tackles. I think that's a reasonable expectation for him. I think he could do that. Landon Jackson, 4.5 sacks. That's low. That's 2 less than he had last year.
I have to interrupt the conversation because the chat will not shut up. We have people arguing over whether or not Taylon Green threw more touchdowns or interceptions last year. Guys, go touch grass. I'm sorry. You got to go touch grass. I know you're watching our show and you're enjoying. Been going on for 20 minutes. They're just arguing over whether or not he had more touchdowns than interceptions, when like you can find this information.
Can't you just Google it?
Yeah, just on the internet. Like, you're on the internet right now. Just go look it up, dude. Like, you can look it up. It's fine. Geez. I've been just watching that update for a while. It's crazy. But I also did want to give a shout out to Landon Jackson, first team All SEC. He and Eric Gregory, the only All-SEC award winners for Arkansas in this simulation. Eric Gregory got second team with 4 sacks. Landon Jackson, 8 TFLs and 4.5 sacks. Respectable, but even a down year for him technically, because he had, I think, 5.5, 6.5 last year, right?
Yeah. 6.5 last year, but 3.5 came against Alabama, right? Over half of those for Landon Jackson came in one game. Yeah.
Well,
he's feasting on that freshman tackle, man.
I will say that just for fun, what I did last night too is I did also a simulation for Arkansas. I didn't go into the in-depth analysis of it all. I just wanted to see how it would be different from the one that Andrew did. And Arkansas on my simulation went 8-4.
Hey,
but let me tell you who the losses are to.
Oh boy.
Oklahoma State, Auburn, Mississippi State, and Texas A&M.
So you're beating Texas and Ole Miss?
You're going undefeated at home. And Missouri. Yeah, you're beating
early losses too, right? So it's like they win like 7 in a row down the stretch.
Yeah.
I like this.
Maybe that's when maybe Bobby Petrino takes over, like everybody's been hoping for, apparently.
That's
wow.
Maybe so. So yeah, I'm just sitting there. I'm like looking at this and I'm like, I know what that would be that right there. If that happened, if this actually happened, I think I would never be more pissed off about an 8-4 record in my life, where it's like you beat the best teams, but yet you lose to Auburn, Mississippi State, A&M, and Oklahoma State. But you beat Texas, you beat Ole Miss, you beat LSU, you beat Tennessee, you beat Missouri on the road. Like, oh, but you lose those. Oh, okay. Like, that's the most Arkansas thing ever. It's kind of like in Bielema's year in 2015. Like, Arkansas went 5-3 in the SEC, where they lost in overtime to Texas A&M. They lost by a blocked field goal to Mississippi State at home, and then they lost by 13 on the road to Bahama. But because they lost to Toledo and Texas Tech, they went 7-5. Like, that's the type of year it would remind me of, where it's like it should have been so much better than what it was. But it's the way it goes.
For the record, on Boise State's official recorded stat sheet, Taylor Green had 11 touchdowns and he had 9 interceptions.
On every single stat sheet you can find on the internet. Look, these are bad stats. We're not even like tooting the Taylor Green horn, but it's like
either way they're bad.
20 minutes over it.
Yeah. It's like, it's okay. Problem solved. It's done. Like, no more arguing. Crisis
he was
averted.
It up with 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. But it's like
crisis. I know it's crazy. Okay, so moving on into our next topic, a little basketball talk that we'll get into as well.
Shifting gears. Part
of our Arkansas update presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters the most. And for that, this was pretty fascinating, where you had the Candid Coaches thing on CBS Sports. Apparently, it's just the coolest thing ever. Like, I can't believe I didn't know more about this with Gary Parrish and Matt Norland.
Man.
Yeah, because we talked a little bit about it yesterday and about what other coaches had to say about Calipari or what the biggest hire was and everything. But now there's something to do with NIL. And Curtis, I'll have you set it up since you're the one that brought it up. But pretty fascinating when it comes to NIL and college basketball.
Yeah, it really is. And yeah, this Candid Coaches series, it's CBS Sports, and it's Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish. They've got a really good podcast, the Eye on College Basketball podcast. But in the summers, they poll 100 coaches, Division I basketball coaches, and they really spread it out. Like they'll high major head coaches all the way down to low major assistants. So they get a fair representation of all 340 whatever teams that they have. And they just ask them a bunch of questions, and then they calculate up the results and they get some cool quotes from it or whatever. And so what they did in this particular case was just kind of went out and they asked the question simply, which 3 programs do you believe have the best NIL situations in college basketball? And they caveated it as, who do you believe has that? Because nobody really knows for sure, because it's not public information. It's not regulated, but all these coaches who are recruiting kids, they're probably hearing, Arkansas is paying this much. Arkansas is offering this much. And so you hear all about those things. At any rate, the program that in these polls who is believed to have the best NIL situation, shocker, it's Arkansas. 73.7% of the returns had Arkansas at the top of this list. That is absurd. And it's 30% higher than a Kansas, who everyone knows, paid a boatload of money to get Hunter Dickinson a couple years ago. BYU, who we talked about on this exact show the other day, where it's rumored that they've been offering, several $1 million in NIL packages to one high school player. And then, just completely blows Kentucky and everybody else out of the water. Not that many SEC schools represented, but buddy, that chicken money's real.
I'm about to say, Curtis, what are you saying? Like, why would coaches see Arkansas as leading and spending the most NIL in college basketball? It's almost like there was reports on SportsCenter and ESPN and stuff about Tyson Chicken and how much money that they were like an actual amount that they were putting into the NIL. It's amazing why coaches would think that.
Yeah. It's pretty impressive. At least people are buying that hype no matter what. I absolutely love that. I really do. And, they usually have some good quotes in these stories. Not a ton here, but what one person put in, they're all anonymous, these coaches, but one guy said, Cal, he's not going anywhere unless he has everything he needs in place. I mean, there's truth to that. Like he kind of wore out his welcome at Kentucky. He knew that there needed to be a change in voice or whatever, but he wasn't just going to dip out unless he had the perfect situation in place. And that's why this is a good marriage here with Arkansas. And man, nowadays NIL is a big part of that equation. They've got that covered around these parts.
All I can think of is just absolutely brutal, putrid scenes for our boys over at Big Blue Nation. Yeah. That, if they had done this poll 3 months ago, 4 months ago, it would have been very different. Being below BYU, where you just hired their coach, you hired the Mormon coach, and now all of a sudden the Mormons are spending more money than you, and you're trying to compete with the big dogs, man. It's tough. It's tough scenes, man. That's gotta hurt.
Yeah. Well, I think that somehow they'll get over it because, it's the mecca of college basketball and that's where everybody wants to go. They'll play for free over there. But one of the things that I love about this, and, maybe people try to make not so much out of it, but it's the perception. And if the perception is, whether this is true or not, this is just what coaches feel. The perception from this is like, oh, Arkansas pays big money. And who sees that? Who hears about that? Players currently in college basketball, maybe about to be in college basketball, maybe ones that are looking to transfer after the season's over. And they're like, where do I want to go? Oh, I hear that Arkansas has the biggest and best and most. I want to try to go there. I know I can get some there. And so it's a perception thing more so than anything when it comes to recruiting. It's just like anything else. It's like, it's a pitch, whether it's true or not. But apparently, if you're number one in something, I think being number one in NIL is a pretty good thing to be number one in.
Yeah, that's a good place to be in. And then it makes this entire, flip side of the coin situation with football NIL and all the stuff going on with the casino battles and the 50-50 and all that. It's nuts that it's two completely different worlds, man. Like you're thinking about, okay, Arkansas basketball, John Calipari, John Tyson, cool. They got all the NIL they need to build a contender year in and year out. And then you just think about the other side of it. And it's like, oh man, like the numbers for Arkansas Edge and they're falling behind with the NIL they have for the football program. Oh, you got to get Pittman the resources he needs. Let's try to do this 50-50. No, we're not going to do the 50-50. It's crazy how you can have the same school, and guys who hang out in the same offices, down the hall from each other or whatever. And it's just completely different worlds that they're living in right now.
Well, and it's to John's point the whole time. It's a little bit of a chicken or an egg situation where it's like, oh, we suck, so our NIL situation is bad. Mm-hmm. Or you suck, so your NIL situation is bad. Because it's not like, hey, you go 3-9 in football this year. Well, let's just rattle off $10 million and start paying dudes. You're not going to even get at the table with those guys because the number one quarterback in the country does not want to go play for a 3-9 team. He doesn't want to go play for a new coaching staff that he's never heard of, and he didn't even know who GJ Kinney is or whatever it is. You kind of have to have that national perception, like you said, and you have to be what people are talking about and where people want to give their money to the Arkansas basketball program because they've seen what it can do. You've seen what Cal can do with that money. People in your state are not going to want to just randomly be like, hey, I know the football program has been bad, but if you guys start spending a bunch of money, maybe they won't be bad. Doesn't really work like that in real life, you know. And I think it's you know, you said it best. Perception is key. Like perception eventually turns into reality. And so that's what's funny is this is a poll on who people think has the most NIL money. Nobody even really knows. All we know is Arkansas has a loaded roster and they didn't get it through the goodness of their hearts.
Well, the other thing that's funny about the perception is reality deal is like when Cal got the job and it was, oh, all these reports are coming out. Yeah, John Tyson's got $6 million of NIL going to him or whatever. Then you get to the press conference and right away, Hunter Yurachek is like, no, that is not the case. Those numbers are not in place. That's not in the bank account. We want people to donate. Because it's true. You don't want, you know, other donors and people who have deep pockets to look at that and go, basketball's covered. We're good.
Yeah. It's like you're constantly trying to grow more. And like, I've been saying this for a long time. In fact, I even tweeted about this and I'm going to toot my own horn. The people that always said that anytime things were bad, like Razorback football was struggling or whatever, or when Razorback basketball was going through their constant beginning of SEC play struggles, everyone was just pointing to NIL and being like, this is what I've heard the NIL is crap and they're not doing anything. And it frustrates me because I'm like, why? Okay, we'll take Razorback football. Is NIL the reason why Razorback football sucked last year? Was it the NIL? No, it had nothing to do with it. And also, there are plenty of players out there, which I know NIL is important, but if you're a big time transfer and you're looking to you're getting offers to come to all these different schools, and you see a place that's offering that just went 9-3, offering you $500,000, or a place that's 4-8, offering you $750,000, guess what you're probably going to do? You'd rather take $250,000 less to go play for a winning program that's going to help give you exposure, that's going to get you ready for the league where you can actually make big money, than take that extra $250,000 and suck. Like, that's just, it's still that reality. And so this idea that Arkansas's had this problem with NIL, no, they don't. Because here's another thing too. Business people who are donating this, the Tysons of the world, the Wallens of the world, they didn't get to the point to where they're at by being stupid with money. They don't spend money on stupid crap. And that's what people would always bring up. I just have Jerry Jones write a check. Jerry Jones is not stupid with money. And so when they're being asked, hey, we need this millions of dollars or whatever for NIL, people are going to be looking at it as like, okay, but I want a return on my investment. I want something for it. I don't want to put money into something that's going to suck, because then I just really wasted my money. So that's another thing too. You got to come with the winning, and the winning will come with the NIL, because I don't care what anybody says. If it wasn't John Calipari being the head coach of Arkansas, they would not have anyone looking to donate and give the money to the NIL like they do now. But because it's John freaking Calipari, people are like, okay, well, I'm definitely investing in that. It'd be the same thing with any other sport. If you hire some no-name coach that no one's ever heard of, people probably aren't going to be as apt to put in a lot of money. But if Arkansas ended up hiring Nick Saban somehow, they're going to be like, take all the money. So it's just people use it almost as a crutch, NIL. When things are bad, it's because the NIL sucks. Or when things aren't as good as what they should be, it's because people aren't donating, or these rich billionaires, they aren't giving enough money. It's not as simple as that. It's a very, hey, if I'm going to give my money, I want return on investment, and I want to see success. And when the success isn't there, guess what? They're not going to keep just flooding in millions of dollars year over year over year to have a crappy football team or basketball team or whatever. It's very simple.
No doubt about it. And it honestly, it goes both ways too, is what's interesting about it. When we talk about perception being reality and, you know, winning, oh, they have a lot of NIL, losing, oh, no, they don't. Listen, I know that Arkansas basketball has had plenty of NIL money over the course of the last couple of years here, but when that team stunk last year and they were getting into the transfer portal, anytime something was put out about NIL or what another program has or whatever, I was getting text messages from people in that building saying, we ain't got that. I don't know where that number's coming from. No, we need more. Oh, 6 teams in the Big East were passing out $2 million in NIL last year. We didn't have anywhere near that. And so that was a real thing with it. And also to the point of, did Arkansas not have enough NIL for football last season? Is that why they stunk? I'll tell you this right now. If they didn't have a good amount of NIL, KJ Jefferson would have been at Auburn with Hugh Freeze. So
yes,
they had enough money to keep him around for last season. It wasn't that bad for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you had KJ, Rocket Sanders. They're all like, you know what? I'm getting phone calls out the wazoo, but I'm going to stay at Arkansas for half the price. Like, come on. Like that's just and honestly, that to me is one of the best. And I'm glad you brought that up, Curtis. That's one of the best indicators of if you have a true, legitimate NIL problem. When your team's having success, and on top of that, your best players are leaving every year. That to me is when it's like, okay, there is a problem with NIL, because that's, and I'm not taking shots. Maybe I am taking shots, but that's kind of the reason why in these smaller schools, guess who comes and poaches their best players? Bigger schools. Why? Because they have more NIL. It's the same concept. So yeah, you're not losing your best players. If your best players are staying from one year to the next, your NIL's fine. You're doing okay. So yeah, good NIL discussion. Something that no one ever gets enough of, because no one knows anything about it.
Oh man.
Yeah, but it's fun to talk about.
I will say we talk about it, I feel like, more than anyone else, right?
Probably.
We talk about NIL a good bit.
Feels like we get into it in some degree every day.
I mean, yeah, pretty much every day. Yeah, it's a little bit of a weird thing where, I feel like it's tough to even talk about, because it's like there's so many factors that none of us really know about. But yeah, I feel like it's people view it as such a 2 + 2 = 4 of like, you got good NIL, it's like there's just so many variables, man. And it's not like they're handing out real contracts. It's complete. It's a crapshoot, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also like too that everybody just knows somebody that knows something, and it's like, well, I know that this amount of money and everything. Is like, listen, almost nobody knows anything, except the only people that actually know would be the people that are the Tysons of the world. They would know, because Yurchek and all of them, they're never going to tell you publicly what's going on. They're like Kurt says, like, they're going to be like, oh, guys, we're good with enough NIL money. I know that's what Oakland wanted everyone to think about it in the public offices. They're like, hey, they know the Arkansas, they're good. Look at them. I mean, look at their seasons these past 3 years. Weren't they great? No, they need more NIL too. So, all right. So let's do a little fun stuff when it comes to the I guess what's more likely. We'll do that. But I wanted to ask this question of the day first real quick, or see what you guys thought. It's just a simple throwaway thing. It's fine. Just asking Razorback fans, would you rather the Razorback football make the college football playoff this season, or Razorback basketball make the Final Four this season? I know it's more likely that the basketball team makes the Final Four, but just if you had your choice, which one would you rather have?
I think I would rather football make the playoff.
I think I like football making the playoff. One, because if I don't choose basketball, they still have a chance in the next 4 or 5 years. But if I don't choose football, they do not have a chance. And so it's like, I think the ripple effect would just be chaotic. And also for our personal growth and development, I feel like football going to the playoff would be something we could turn into something decent.
Well, the voting, as of right now at least, the Final Four is leading the way at 54%. So it's close.
Okay, tight race.
Tight race.
That speaks to where the fan base is at these days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But again, people are always going to read that question the way they want it to. They're like, well, it's more realistic for Final Fours. I'm going to vote that because that's the one. It's like, well, that's not the question. It doesn't matter. So, okay. All right. Let's do a little bit of what's more likely. And I'm sure that these will go perfectly fine and nobody will be mad about these or ever and criticize them or anything like that. So, all right, we'll start with this one. What's more likely? Razorbacks go undefeated away from Fayetteville, or Razorbacks go undefeated in Fayetteville?
Away.
We're talking about football here, right?
That's right.
I think away from Fayetteville, just because there's winnable games. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that would include Oklahoma State, Texas A&M, Missouri, Auburn, Mississippi State, and Auburn. So, I'm not saying it's wrong. What's up?
Did you say A&M in there? I didn't. Yeah. I did. I wasn't paying attention. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, because, and the reason I asked this is because it's like just so funny. Something from last year. The team sucked at home last year, but they were actually good on the road, and it made no sense. So, that's why I brought that one.
I mean, beating Tennessee, LSU, Texas, and Ole Miss. Yeah.
Simple.
That alone, it's going to be tough to sell me. Yeah.
Beat one of those teams, I'll be happy. So, yeah.
All right. So, it's another one too. Again, this is all just random crap I pull out of my rear end. What's more likely? Hogs will have no players ejected for targeting this season, or they won't miss a field goal this season.
Targeting, right?
Yeah, they're missing a field goal.
Yeah. According to the simulation, Shipley went 9 of 12.
There you go.
Okay. So, all right. So so ejected for targeting, which I guess now that I'm thinking about it, they have adjusted the rule slightly, right? Where Or no, it's just if you got ejected, you could still stay on the sidelines where before you had to go into the locker room.
Who got ejected for targeting last year?
Oh, geez. Well, I don't know. Didn't people get ejected for that Missouri scruff?
Wasn't the Bahamas, man. I didn't watch that game.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
You know who got ejected? Quincy Rhodes got ejected for targeting in a game that he got injured. And on the play that he got injured.
Oh, yeah.
It was a UAPB game.
Yeah.
He was like out with an injury, and then he also was targeting too.
That's right. Which game we said that was?
Not UAPB, Western Carolina to open the year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So,
Jeffcoat might have got Jeffcoat got a lot of personal fouls.
Yeah,
unsportsmanlike conducts. I don't know if he ever got ejected, but yeah, he would be a candidate for sure.
Yeah,
low-key, it'd be a red flag if you don't have anyone ejected for targeting.
It's true. You're not playing good defense. Yeah, you're not playing good defense. All right, what's more likely? Landon Jackson does not lead the team in sacks, or Jaquindon Jackson does not lead the team in rushing yards?
I'm going Landon Jackson sacks.
More likely that he does not, or that Jackson does not. I'm going to go Jackson in the rushing yards.
So who would be the person you think would be most likely to lead the team in sacks if it was?
Now that's where it gets trouble.
I couldn't come up with a reasonable answer for that, so
I know that's why I wanted to ask, because I felt like y'all were going to lean that way. So I was like, okay, now I'm going to put the pressure on to see who they think would actually do that.
Junkaj, just because he had 15 at Albany last year or whatever. It's like but yeah, I don't feel very confident that. But I don't know. I think it would have to be a linebacker. Frankly, I think it would be them doing something weird where like Brad Spence had 6 sacks and Landon only had 5.5, or like something weird like that. But now that I think about it, it's really, this question ultimately comes down to, who do you think is more likely to get injured?
Exactly. Yeah,
true.
That's true.
True. Yeah. Well, because both are really good athletes and both are built like trucks. So, yeah.
And uninjurable.
Yeah. All right. So here's another one that I don't know. Again, I was like, do you think Hogs will have, what's more likely? The Hogs have more successful fake field goals or fake punts this year?
Fake field goals.
I'm going to go field goals too.
I'm going to go field goals just because they're not going to be Cam Little levels of confident in Shipley. So they might be a little bit more inclined to get tricky with it in certain situations.
Yeah. Because we're talking about successful ones, not just attempted, but like ones that actually get you the first down or touchdown or whatever. So.
What kind of arm strength is Devin Bale working with?
What's up on the game? Look on the college football video game. See what he's got.
I had to check that out.
I don't even know if he's on the game, to be honest.
He's not. He's actually not. They have like 3 punters that have different names that I don't think they're real human beings. I think they just kind of. Devin Bale must not have opted in like Arch Manning.
Imagine being a punter and not opting into college football video game.
Well, dude, it was a punter or a kicker that was the reason the whole thing happened. It was like a Hawaii punter that was like trying to sue EA Sports over it back in the day. That's what caused this whole ruckus.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that was. I'm just glad it's back. But still, if anybody doesn't opt in, I think you're weird. I think you're bad. All right, this one, people are going to get mad, but that's fine. What's more likely, Petrino's at Arkansas or Pittman's at Arkansas next season?
I think, that's a good question.
So
in a way, I feel like it's both or neither.
Right. Which is, of course, that would be the thing. So, but it's like you got to choose one though. Like who would be the most likely?
So okay, so if Pittman, I'm trying to think of this. Are we saying what's more likely, that Petrino is at Arkansas without Pittman, or that Pittman is at Arkansas without Petrino?
Pretty much, yeah.
I think it's more likely that Petrino is at Arkansas without Pittman, because I don't really see a path to Pittman being at Arkansas without Petrino next year, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think like Pittman gets retained as head coach and they fire Bobby, or Bobby leaves. I don't think Bobby's going to be the head coach at, Utah State or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right. I think he's pretty content at where he's at right now, unless a new guy comes and says,
He likes his job more than Pittman likes his job.
That'd be wild. Could you imagine if they made a move at head coach and they brought in a new head coach and he went to Petrino and was like, sorry, man, we're going to go in a different direction with the offense.
That would be awkward. I don't know how that would go.
Talk about first impressions, man.
Yeah. And make me wonder, like, where Petrino would go from there. Like, would he just retire, or would he be like, I could still be an OC somewhere else.
He said he was considering, like in the very beginning, he wasn't really sure how long he's going to keep doing this. And then
if he gets fired, bro, that dude is going to be in Hot Springs so quick, cashing them buyout checks, bro. He is not taking another job if he gets fired.
Which one are you talking about?
Stunned. Pittman. If
oh,
Pittman
yeah.
gets fired,
no shit. Yeah.
No, I was talking about Petrino.
Petrino?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Because he'd probably go coach somewhere.
See, I would think so too, but at the same time, it's like, dude, you've just had 3 jobs in 3 years, and you're getting old up there, and I know you got money and everything. Because here's the thing, people might not know it, and it's not a bad thing. I'm not trying to start stuff, but like Petrino's wife did not move down here. Petrino's wife still lives in Missouri. So like, that because just it's, I'm sure it's very uncomfortable of a situation. So it's like, I don't think he would stay in Arkansas or anything like that. I don't know. I don't think, am I going to sit here and say that this is Petrino's last job in college football? No. But if he called it quits after the Pittman era or whatever ended, then I wouldn't be surprised.
Wasn't he technically the UNLV OC for like a week? He
was. Yep. And then, I went to College Station because everybody was making the jokes about, Petrino went over there to Vegas, and they're like, absolutely not with all these people around here. You got to go to College Station where they have male cheerleaders. That's where you got to go. So, so that was the funny haha joke about it all. Okay, so yeah, that was pretty much all I had. Not my best effort. There was a couple in there.
That was fun.
No, I think that was a fair one.
Yeah, because I had one. What was the one you asked yesterday that I was like, I should have saved this for what's more likely? Forgot what it was. Because I brought it up and it was like, what's more likely of this or that to happen? I don't remember which one it was. Should have revisited that one and asked that again. But yeah, I love when people in the chat get involved and they start giving their answers too, and start arguing about what they'd rather have with people too. Like that's where it gets fun. So, let's see. There was a few chats too I wanted to bring up before we get to the final segment here on the show. We just got about 8 or so minutes left. Hayden says, I understand the Pittman hot seat, obviously, but one thing I don't understand and can't get on board with is the midseason firing. I just think there would have to be a bizarre. I think there would have to be a bizarre to get better that way. I don't know if I read that right, but yeah. So
I would say like 80% of firings happen mid-season, right? Like most of the firings in college football happen during the season at some point, right? And if with Arkansas' schedule, you can kind of see the route to it. And having Petrino as an obvious interim head coach, I think helps a little bit. You know what I mean? So it's like,
well, let me throw this in. Does Petrino want to be the interim head coach?
Like interim, maybe head coach? No, but
I 100% agree. He does not want to be the head coach permanently, but. Say if the inevitable, or not inevitable, I shouldn't say that. Say if that happened, which I don't think anyone wants it to happen, but say if it did, say if there's a change made in the middle of the season. Yes, Petrino seems like the obvious answer is interim, but would Petrino agree to be like, yeah, I've been here 1 year and I'm going to take over the team and I'm going to go back to head coaching duties. I'm going to do press conferences. I'm going to do all of this stuff. Like, is he going to agree to that?
Yes, he's going to agree to that.
All right. Well, I
think he would.
I hope he does.
I mean, what else is he going to do? Say no? Be like, nah, T. Will, you go do it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Because do they have an associate head coach or whatever? Because don't they usually have like a random player or a coach name that?
Yeah, I think Marcus Woodson.
Is he really?
Maybe not, but he's got a weird title where he's like,
okay.
Maybe he's just an associate DC or something like that. He's co-DC, and I don't know. Okay. But yeah.
Well, what I'll say to that, the bigger question though, about midseason firings and not seeing that, the game has changed, because the season in ways isn't even over. Or if you don't make a bowl, you have to have a head coach in place when that portal opens up, man. You have to, or you're just screwed. So why are coaches getting fired in the season? It's because you need to start that search and let it be known that way. As soon as, whoever you're trying to hire is done, he's moving his stuff to Fayetteville and then hitting the transfer portal. So the people who are like, oh yeah, if he starts 2-4, he's out of here. I don't think I see that, even though a 2-4 start, if it's the wins we would anticipate it would not be pretty. But that second bye, if things are really going south and you've lost a couple in a row and you're, already looking at staring down, not being bowl eligible and everything, that's more when I could see it happening if it was going to happen. But I think the worst thing that could happen for Arkansas, if they're legitimately looking to make a change at the top, would be for it to be this thing where it's like, we don't know. And then at the end of the season, you're 4-8 or you're 5-7, you just missed, and then you make a move, and then because they never do anything as fast as people want them to, and you're 2 weeks into the portal season before you get a head coach in place, all your team is transferred, and then you can't fill up the way you need to. That's when I would be concerned.
Yeah. Yeah, because, if they're going to fire Sam Pittman, it's like, by the way, like, we're not advocating for it. We're not saying that's going to happen. We're just kind of answering the question, kind of basing it off of that. If they make that decision of like, yeah, we're not continuing with Pittman after this year, I don't see the point in waiting. What would you wait till the end of the season for? Especially if Arkansas gets that 7th loss or whatever it is, where it's like, okay, yeah, we might as well. I think whenever they're officially not bowl eligible would probably be when you go ahead and say, all right, let's like you said, start that search process, get things going. Because that signing day period, that first signing day is like December 17th or something like that. You pretty much have to get that ball rolling real quick. So yeah, I don't see why you would wait.
Yeah. My favorite thing, I always think back, I know it's different because it wasn't the transfer portal or anything, but I always think back to Arkansas. Arkansas was the first SEC team to fire their coach when Chad Morris got fired. Yeah, they were the last SEC team to fill the vacancy because like everybody else. So that's the last thing. Now you don't want to be in that situation. Like December is insane for college football. Like it didn't used to be the most insane month, and now it's become the most insane month where coaching changes are like that, and then transfer portals hits, and then you're the high school early signing period. Like December has become the craziest month and busiest month of college football.
No doubt.
Yeah. I guess people are saying Scott Fountain is the associate head coach. Wouldn't that be something?
Great.
Scott Fountain becomes the interim head coach. That'd be awesome.
I don't see that happen.
No, I don't either. That would be strange, but I don't know. He'd be great for like press conferences and media, and just asking me like, okay, so you're coaching kickers, and now you're the one that's calling timeouts and getting the team ready. How's that going for you? Yeah. Also, just a couple other chats that wanted to bring up. Jeremy says, "Hey, love your show, guys. Woo Pig Suey 8-4.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Love it.
Only bring the good ones up.
Yeah, only the ones that hype us up. Those are the only ones that get mentioned. So,
right.
we only like those. Jeff has been blowing this up about my Locked On SEC season preview, which I just want to bring this up real quick. So, yeah, there was a college football season preview that we did with Locked On, and it was all the SEC hosts. And the reason I was pissed off in that is because how it was handled, where they basically were like, okay, we're going to do the top Locked On SEC host of what we think the football teams are going to be in one. And then in the second one, we're going to do the ones that are mid. And in the last one, we're just going to be the scrubs. And I was put in the scrubs category with like, I felt like I was like walking in, getting in there, and the only table that's available at lunch in the cafeteria is with the weird kids that are eating markers and sniffing glue. And like that, or that smell bad. I was like, great. So that's why because he kept asking why I was having bad vibes. And I was like, that's why, because I was pissed. It's like, I
got to listen to this now.
Dude, I got the Missouri guy. I got the Missouri guy in the champagne room over there in the first tier. And I'm like sitting here with Vanderbilt in South Carolina. Like, God.
Did you throw shade at him while you were in the room?
Yeah, because they did this thing, like kind of like joking. They're like, hey, so for each person, I want you to go say something, says it's been pretty, because we like to talk trash in there anyways, but they're like, say something nice about another team that's represented here in the room. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I was like, because I don't like anybody. And so they've made me do it. And the only thing I said is like, Nashville's a cool city. That's the best I had. So that's what I wanted to address that for you, Jeff, because I know you've been blowing it up in there trying to figure that out. So yeah, I was not a happy camper that day. Okay. So yeah, we got all the things figured out for the dadgum arguments about Taylor Green's stats and touchdowns.
We settled it.
Yeah.
We found out that Google is in fact a working site that you can use, and it has information.
Yeah. Well, since we're about to close up shop here too, like we can bring up some weird stuff now. So I wanted to go to the beginning here too. Oh yeah. So Andrew was saying, who's the greatest number 6s and number 7s of all time? 5 is obvious, 6 and 7. Oh, to me, it's easy. 7's Nile Davis.
Barry Linney?
No, Nile Davis.
Wow.
And 6 is Ken Hamlin. To me, those are easy. Yeah. So, and then there was also, there's one I was going to bring up for Curtis. Oh, yeah, this person, Butternut Squash, is back and keeps asking if you'll adopt him. So.
Send me the paperwork. Send it over. I saw a Butternut Squash in one of the mailbag episode comments yesterday, a return. It was just like, Curtis has aura. I'm like, oh god.
It got weird on that one stream back in the day. Butternut Squash is going crazy.
So you've met this person in person? I
have.
I was asking if you have.
I don't know who Butternut Squash is. I'm appreciative of the fandom. Kind words. We'll call it kind words. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, you guys saw the message I got this morning that I sent you. Like, what the crap? I get that crap, weird stuff all the time.
That was interesting.
Yeah. So it's just golly, story of our lives. All right. That does about us, fellas. Before we get out of here, any final thoughts? Feelings?
No.
Okay.
I got nothing.
My final thought is I want to disagree with Jeff's comment here. He says the last interim head coach for Arkansas that came from special teams was John L. Smith. Technically, John L. Smith was not an interim coach. They hired that sucker full time.
What was it? 1 year for $800,000?
Yeah, which he immediately fumbled.
Yep.
Yikes.
They hired him from
John L. Smith.
Yeah, because was it Ball State he was the coach at? And then you just left him in the lurch.
Weber State.
Yeah, just left him in the lurch and was back. So also, David, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I guess David thinks you're looking like Chester Bennington today, Curtis, from Lincoln Park. So
I was gonna say I don't know who that is.
Yeah, he's dead. He died.
I like the Clark Kent vibe you've got going on.
Yeah,
and I'm wearing a Superman shirt, and you're looking like Clark Kent. How about that?
I'm looking like no, I'm not gonna. It's over. Let's just end this.
What were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say it was like black shirt Batman, but I was trying to think if I wanted to be part of the superhero conversation too. So that's all I had. So
we do not accept.
No, because that's why I didn't say it, because I was like, nope, I'm not even gonna give it out. It's not even gonna work.
Speaking of Batman, though, Ben Affleck and J-Lo divorced. Did y'all see that?
Again,
she's officially.
Or is that what? Okay.
This is so what now? Like, do they go on to also date other beautiful people that have money? So probably.
Should go back to A-Rod.
Ew, yeah, I don't remember that. That was weird.
No? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think A-Rod fumbled his chance, man.
Dude, ever since I found out that A-Rod had a massive 10 foot by 10 foot painting of him as a minotaur above his bed, I was like, I can't take you seriously in anything. That was weird. So, anyways, good way to end the show. Appreciate everybody listening and watching in here on the Inside Arkansas Live. Be sure to subscribe to all of our great content and great stuff on Inside Arkansas on our YouTube page. No one's putting out more and better high quality content than what we are each and every day. So check it out on YouTube. You can also check out our website at InsideArkansas.com for all the great content as well. Keep it moving. For Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, I'm John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll